Hello and welcome to Tank and AFV News. My name is Tom and this is my daily rant. Today I want to talk about, much like the last one, just a video I watched which had some things in it I wanted to address. And this was the Tank Museum at Bovington, part of their Tank Chat series, did one on the 28th of July, which is last Saturday, on the IS-3 tank, which they had there. Actually in the video it's labeled JS-3, but they address it. It can be IS or JS. Just depends on if you're using sort of the Russian or the English spelling of Joseph Stalin. And that particular tank it's not part of the Tank Museum's collection. It was on loan, I think they said, from the Dutch. Had loaned it for the Tank Fest event, which you can see there's quite a few videos out there about Tank Fest. It's one of those things I'd love to go to it someday, but you know, being in the United States, can't really just hop on a plane and go over there for a weekend very easily. So someday perhaps I will get to see that in the museum and see all the great work they do there. Anyway, so in the video, which is it's David Wiley, who's the museum curator. So it's not David Fletcher. Usually does the Tank Chats ones, although I've noticed that the ones that Wiley does usually are a little longer and more detailed, actually. But in this one, I was a little surprised that there were a few things that there's some factual errors that I wanted to just correct. So, you know, I'll put a link to the original video if people want to watch it. The things that sort of jumped out at me were, at one point, he infers that the IS-1, or IS-85 it was called originally, was the same as the KV-85. So when he's sort of giving the history, and maybe it was just sort of like, you know, one of the steps he just sort of overlooked or smushed together, but you know, sort of at the end of the KV development, there was the KV-85. They didn't make a ton of them, and it was replaced, and then they came out very early on with the IS series, which the original one was armed with the same 85mm gun. But they're two different tanks. The IS is it's a different, you know, if you look at it, the hull, it's related to the KV series, it's derived from the KV series, but it's not the same. So that KV-85 and the IS-85, which would become known as the IS-1, you know, once they came out with the IS-2, they're different tanks, and that's that development process is a little more complicated and convoluted than he describes it in the video. The other thing is he a couple times says DT-20 to describe the gun on the IS-3, and I'm pretty sure it's D-25T is the designation for most of the sources I've seen. So, you know, a minor thing, easy to get wrong. And then the only other thing that jumped out was just when he referred to the IS-3 as being a couple tons lighter than a German Panther, and I think it's the opposite. Most of the stats I've seen, the IS series, the IS-2 and IS-3, they're a couple tons heavier than a Panther. But, you know, still doesn't change the main point, which is that Russian heavy tanks were, you know, pretty much about roughly the same weight as the German medium, the Panther. So, certainly says something about the Russians' ability to pack more armor and firepower into the same amount of mass than the Germans were able to. So those are just some little things I wanted to point out real quick for anybody watching the video. And again, I'm not doing these sort of little rant, nitpicky things to show off or anything. It's just, you know, I like to see the facts presented correctly, and I don't do it as to pick on anyone else either. I mean, the people at the Tank Museum are doing a fantastic job. I mean, it's the best tank museum in the world, and they probably have far more responsibilities and things they're trying to take care of than me. I have the luxury of just sitting around and thinking about tanks constantly. So anyhow, that is my rant for the day. I'll put a post to the actual Tank Chat episode, and which I do encourage people to watch them all. If for no other thing than, you know, it's always fun to watch David Fletcher. He's just such a engaging personality. So thank you, and I will catch you on the next one.